Queer Across America is my road trip across the country, checking out queer areas in each city. I typically have a home base and do trips out from whatever city I'm living in. But Los Angeles is a little too far away from everywhere I want to travel to. For the second time in my life, I decided to move out of LA. But this time it was going to be permanent. My next destination? Denver, Colorado, where I would be more central in the US. I've been living in Colorado for the past 10 months and been doing trips from here to places like Austin, Texas, New Orleans, El Paso, and Chicago that you've seen in my previous videos. Since Colorado's kind of a hot spot right now and so many people are moving here, especially from California, I'm going to give a step-by-step on how I moved and settled in the Rocky State. First, I packed everything I owned in my car, which was mostly books, and drove out of Los Angeles. My life in LA was by no means bad. I had a good-sized studio with a full kitchen and bathroom for $1,400 with parking being $75, though rent was going up an extra $100, which helped my decision to move. I also had a few really cool jobs like bartending the VIP room at the Forum. I got to hear sound checks for so many artists like Madonna, Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Joan Jett. I also bartended at a club in Silver Lake. It was trash, but occasionally fun. My parents had COVID that week, so I couldn't even properly say bye to them. I just waited for my car as I drove past their house. Moving is one of the most infuriating things. You need a job to apply for a place to live, but you need a place to live to be able to find a job. Also, you need to make at least 2 times the monthly rent to get the apartment. So if the apartment is $1,200, you're expected to make $2,400. If I was making that much, I would not be living in an apartment that was $1,200. It took so much time to set up appointments to view apartments because Zillow and Apartments.com are really awful sites that have just a bunch of listings that are inaccurate. Here are some of the one-bedroom apartments I looked at. Apartment number 1 wasn't bad. It was in downtown, but on a quiet street. $1,200 a month, plus $75 for parking. Apartment number 2 was trying way too hard to be New York. The exposed brick and the 1920s bathtub. The rent was $1,350, but it also had free Wi-Fi and street parking, though the street parking was not good at all. Apartment number 3 was by far my favorite. It was in a tower in the middle of downtown. It had a gym, rooftop, work offices, and a balcony. And it was only $1,270, but parking was an astounding $185 a month. Living in downtown would not give me any choice but to get parking. Apartment number 4 was a weirdly narrow showroom sample. $1,200, but this was about 15 miles northeast of Denver. Also, they were really confused about what was available, how to show the apartment, when I could move in, and just about everything else. Apartment numbers 6 and 7 almost made me move back to LA. They were $1,100 each. They had the same owner, only a block away from each other, and smelt like cigarettes and wet carpet. You can gauge how nasty it was by the mystery clumps in the bathtub and around the toilet. After looking at about 15 apartments over the span of 2 weeks, I was over it. The struggle just to get people to show you apartments is insane, and to get them to actually tell the truth about how much they cost is even harder. Then I finally found this one. It was spacious, clean, decent patio, and nice kitchen. It wasn't perfect, just look at these horribly crooked outlets, but it was definitely nicer than any other place I'd ever lived in. And let me tell you, I've lived in some places. Now, the listing said it was $1,075, which was perfect for my budget. But once I got there and took the tour of the place, they told me it actually went up that morning to $1,400. I noticed immediately that was a major red flag. But I was so exhausted from looking at apartments, and I really liked this one. I signed the lease, then it was time to find some furniture at the thrift store. My plan was to use Colorado as a home base for 2 years while I traveled frequently. I didn't need anything fancy, so thrift store furniture was perfect. I was going to get rid of it soon anyways. The next thing I needed to do was find a job because I left LA without having one lined up. Bartending is one of the easiest jobs to come across because bars are always hiring and you make a good chunk of money with a flexible schedule. So if you're ever looking into traveling permanently, bartending is a really good option aside from remote jobs because there's bars everywhere.
Thank you.
I've had the privilege of having some really cool gigs, like this one at Black Sky Brewery. Metal, pizza, beer. Perfect. Winter hit me hard. The only other place that I lived that had snow was in Seattle, but that kind of snow was only over a couple of days and it wasn't that major. This was the first time I lived with anywhere that had this kind of intense snow. It was beautiful, but my California was not prepared for this kind of cold. Everything about my move seemed to work out pretty well despite not having a real plan. Until it all went to The red flags at my new apartment multiplied and kept getting redder and redder. The locks were broken, among many other things within the apartment. The walls were unbelievably thin, to the point where I could hear the dogs upstairs barking, Monday through Friday for 9 hours straight each day. I could also hear the next door neighbors coughing, sneezing, arguing, and having very, very brief sex. Then came my first rent charge, which was much more of a scam than anything I'd ever experienced in LA. You can see here in the breakdown, my $1,400 rent somehow went up to $1,675 with random fees like miscellaneous income, $20 for trash, being charged to use utilities plus the utilities. Like, what does that even mean? Colorado is also notorious for double charging electricity. Even though you pay the electricity company, the apartment charges almost double on top of that. The apartment manager straight up told me that they can't undo the charge even after I proved to them that I already paid the electric company. My favorite charge, however, is the processing fees. To process the gas charge, it's $50. To process the electricity charge, it's another $50. Also, to pay rent, there's a charge of $50 to do it online. It's such a shame because the apartment is really nice, but man, what an absolute scam. I wonder if other countries have to deal with this kind of nonsense. Because honestly, I've dealt with apartment issues in pretty much every apartment that I've lived in. After only a couple months working at Black Sky, I had to quit. Mostly, I was burnt out on bartending after doing it for the past 8 years and never wanted to deal with drunk people again. I'm a writer and creator, and that's what I've always dreamt of doing. I just wish it paid a livable wage right now. Truthfully, I'm burnt out on having day jobs that don't matter. That was one thing I really loved about LA is that nobody did their day jobs because they wanted to. They used it to fund whatever career that they were pursuing or whatever art they were pursuing. Whereas in other states that I've lived in, people that have day jobs, that's their thing. Their day job is what they want to be doing to fund whatever lifestyle they want to live. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with that, but it's just not for me. Are there any other creatives out there that hit a breaking point with their day job and are just like, I can't do this anymore because it's soul crushing? Thankfully, I picked up a job with Outfront Magazine, Colorado's oldest LGBTQ plus publication. Though it still doesn't quite pay the bills, I'm loving it so much more than bartending. Check the link below to see some of my articles. That's sort of where I'm at right now, and I'm trying my hardest to make it work. But focusing on my art is so much more fulfilling than pouring drinks. So for the next however long, I'll be hemorrhaging money into an apartment I don't even want to be at. At least I'll keep traveling and writing to keep myself happy. If you'd like to support my Queer Across America project, like and subscribe to the page. And if you'd like to help a queer artist follow their dreams, check out my book, The Downtown Underground, on Amazon and the Barnes & Noble website. You can also become a Patreon member to help support the project and join the Queer Across America community.